Okay, so today we will be doing about last time we actually talked about dependencies, right? Hello.
Yeah. Yes.
Dependencies and HTTP client.
Dependency injection
Mm. So basically,
and HTTP client also.
I talk about HTTP client for data consumption and API endpoints for users purpose. So basically, um, one main thing we actually missing, which is your signal. Okay, I think did not said about a signal in previous sessions.
Mm.
So today I discuss about some signals and also here have some routing options are also we can talk about, because so many routing options are added, so many new documentations is added or new features added in Angular process. But basically main thing is when we are working with Angular applications, and sometimes we required some authentication process. So if we required any authentication process, so that authentication part managed by guard. And this is the guard options which is are actually uses in our application. So this type of things I will be talk about, and form part also required to understand. Okay, so this some features we talk about, and which is a new is a completely new part which is are attached or by Angular version 21. Basically at this time Angular version 21 is released 2 days ago.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so and in these new versions are added this some type of elements with the signal, using signal. So basically signal is majorly changes the Angular structure. So first
Angular, they say like it's no longer supported by Google or anything, right? Then how come they are releasing new versions?
sorry, I could not understand what you say.
Angular, I what I thought is it's
Hmm.
end of life and it's no longer supported. But uh, is it the case or is it it's still supported by Google or other companies?
Angular not supported by Google.
Uh, Angular framework.
Hmm.
Uh,
Actually your voice
I
is
was
breaking. I could not
Angular framework.
hmm.
Angular framework.
Mm-hmm.
Angular framework. What I was thinking is it is no longer supported by Google or the developers, the company which developed Angular.
Mm-hmm.
So is it the case?
Actually, Angular developed by Google and maintained by Google developers, Angular teams.
Okay.
They are developing or upgrading their framework. But here I have problem is every versions are doing some changes, or that changes are mostly breaking change. Okay,
Okay.
that was the main issues in Angular. Basically, Angular mostly stable versions comes from the Angular version 4, and it was released uh, 2014 almost. Okay, then Angular 5, Angular 6, so everything is coming. um, so Angular 4 was latest stable, actually it was the stable versions. Before that versions, that Angular type are not so much stable. But from Angular 4 to Angular 20 or Angular 21, there have so many changes, so many changes. Basically, thing is, every versions have internally the structure are changed, they are conceptually so many things are changed internally. So basically every versions have every different kind of documentations, and they are have a different kind of uh, code part. But actually Angular 15 and Angular 16 have major changes, but after this change 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, it's almost aligned in same code base.
Okay.
Basically after 16 it's almost same process are followed, and maybe it can be going for long time support.
Okay.
Once you develop your applications by Angular framework, then you may get long term support by the Angular version 17, 18, because from this version, actually from 16 version to up to 21 versions, they are almost similar concept are using, just they are using new features, new component, but they are not adding any break changes features, which is are actually most important in Angular, because most of the time Angular break their rules. So that
Okay.
was the main problem. But when Angular 16 is come, and after that standalone components are is stable, then they are adding a signal features. These some features are create it as a stable versions, and it will be continuously being upgraded, but their concept not be changed anymore.
Okay.
So once you develop your application with 20 or 19, whatever you are using versions, uh, upcoming versions can be supported regular basis, because there have no breaking change.
Ma- Major changes. Okay.
There will not major changes. Basically it was the main problem in Angular framework. Basically so many Angular developers are there when it release Angular version 4, 5, 6, but I am also working on these things. But Angular 9, okay, but that time I get so many issues. But after that every versions give sometimes so many problem and issues. So basically they are not creating any alignment properly. They are not create any proper alignment for their product. So basically for this particular purpose, Angular third party library cannot get, you will not get so many third party supports in Angular.
Okay.
Basically there changes so many things internally. So for that particular purpose they are releasing a 16% with new features, which is which is are wanted to relate with the reactjs framework. But reactjs is a different concept, different processes. Exact react concept is not uh, actually applied here in the Angular framework, because Angular framework is a enterprise level framework, or React is a uh, micro framework, micro library, not framework. React is a micro library. So that is the main differentiation in Angular or React. So Angular developed for industrial development, industrial bigger applications development mostly. And if you have so many teams, basically if company have so many team member and they are applying their domain specific skills, then they are choose Angular. But you don't have so many teams, and you want to create something UI interactivity quickly, that time you can use React. So there have so many differentiation. So basically that differentiation part is actually differ in Angular or React, but basically React, so many people are attracted because they are stable from the beginning, but in the Angular part, uh, every versions can changes internally. So this is the problem of Angular. But after version 16,
Okay.
Angular is stable. Almost same concepts are aligning, and they are adding new features with their uh, uh, with their previous skill set or previous supports. Okay, so basically, Angular added a new features in version 16, which is the Angular signal. This Angular signal actually are using for the state management system. Basically thing is, when we want to change some data in our applications, so that time the signal can be broadcast, can be generate through one object. Basically thing is, if one object is occurs some value changes, that value can be reflected in the other component, how it work. Okay, so first we understood about this signal, how it work, and why is required this signal. Okay,
Okay.
so basically, first I want to open. mm, so now I can create another component, first page component actually. uh, NGGC, component name is service, SRVICS, services, but it will be going to under pages section.
Okay.
So under pages section I created the services class, and when I create it, then we need to add it under the routing section. So we need to services. So the and then I need to add the header part. Header menu options. Oh, sorry, menu options. Go to the menu option and insert the menu. We can add. Okay, so this is the service page connected, and when I want to service page need to work for our application. So how can applying the signal. So basically signal is a type of component, state type of component. The basically thing is, if we are using any data, like uh, count object, and here I want to see the count value like this. And if we want to see this count value, so definitely here we can create count count value like 0, and when I using this, that value can be visible directly here. Okay.
Yeah.
But if we want to implement increment or decrement, if I want to increment and decrement value, so just I writing this these functions, and after using these functions we can apply button increment decrement functions, and these increment decrement functions are working good, because just I normal functions are uses, and then that functions are connected with the click methods, and it will be performed. But why is required this signal? Basically, if I use this signal, it is, if we use it as signal, and then we need to apply this value here like this. Okay. But once I use this functionalities, then this value when I use this here, so this particular count are changes with the writable signal. It is a object or kind of functions. So basically this particular object are observed by the this particular front assist. Basically this time it's actually working as a function,
Okay.
and these functions actually return some value. So basically this particular function return the number value, because here we assign number value first. So if I want to increment, so basically this time count, and then we need to update the value. So here we need to add options update, and update is the here we can see the first a parameter, and then we can get that parameter to upgrade. So processes sometimes are changes here, right?
Okay.
And also if we want to send things, if you did, so basically it was the previous one which was our working for us, but now these things are working for this signal management. So let's see what happening. Similar thing when we are see the output, both are same, but why is required? Why is required? Why simplest options are when available, so why is required to use just this particular thing? Do you have any question for
No,
this?
no, even I have that question.
Basically
We already
basically
cross-checked.
basically when we have simplest way, then
Why
why
we need to, yes.
then why we are use this complex process? Because uh, in this particular function we get a value from the function, and then we update that function's value with the other way.
Yeah.
It is sometimes looks complicated, right?
Yes, yes.
But basically thing is, this particular process actually applying for when we want to observe the data from the uh, one component to other component. Basically thing is, uh, if we distributed these values for multiple components, that time these particular things are required. So basically, and this is the services component, but I need to create a service class for it. So basically this time I create a data n ng g g s pages services services component I created under the service says component.
Okay.
Under the
Pages, right?
hmm? Actually under the service component I just create sorry, if I push it here, then it actually replace the uh, component before here I have service class directly written here, and it also services class, both name are same. So basically for this particular purpose I just simply set it here, because otherwise it will be our service page component will be disappeared, because the service part. So I just change the name for here. I just use the name like ng g s and I want to create the service class. So servic is services slash data service. I want to name it as data service. So this is the data service class, and this data service class I want to apply data service or count service. First thing I use count service, then we can talk about data service. So first we are create the count service. Here I just create the count object, count object as 0, and here we can use the signal as value for this particular object. Okay, and then we can create a increment of increment value, and also we can use the decrement. So this particular component uses this service class are this count service class are created here, and when I create it as service class, so that this service class I want to use here actually. So how can do that? Just I remove everything from here, and here and just I shorter name use here, and I inject the function cs and cs service file. Okay,
Okay.
so cs means counter service object. Okay, and this counter service object are connected with here. So now cs dot count value is here, and also we can use the cs dot increment cs dot decrement. Okay, basically just we uh, written all the codes inside the service component, that things are shifted into the service class. Okay, then
Okay.
let's see, same things we can see, but our code are goes to component to service class.
Okay.
Okay, so this time when we are managing the data with this service, then we can see the other value. But if I want to use other component, basically this is the same component where we can see the value and updatations, right?
Yes.
Here we can update the value and see the changes in a same file. But if we want to see, if we want to see it in the header section, if we want, so now I go to the section header part, go to the uh, menu bar options, and inside the menu bar here we are using in the disable option. So just I want to see the count value here,
Okay.
just for understanding. Okay, so I we want to see the count value options here. So this time if we want to see the count value here, and that count value are implementing in inside the body page, body section.
Mm.
So basically this value will be connected by the count service class. So basically how it process, how will be processed it, just I create the menu service class. So basically here also we can create the cs and inject the um, um, inject create the functions and also inject the service class. And when we create it here, then we can observe the value like cs dot count with the signal property. Okay, let's
Okay.
check what is thing are happening in here. When I implementing here, that same value are upgrading here also.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the communications process to between two components using the services, and that service are connected by the signal.
Okay.
Understood? Basically
Understood.
in this signal properties are sharing one component to another component. When we require to see changes multiple components, that time, and this is this particular signal create a binder which it's called pub sub binder. So here is a when our data are incrementing or decrementing, it is the publisher and it is the observer. So this is the process which are applied, and once our value is upgrading or degrading, increase or decrease, then we can see the value changes in our page directly. So this is the main process and for understanding the output. Could you understand?
Is it is it is it similar to public variable or universal variable?
It is actually application data variable, app data. Basically, thing is, this is the this particular variable is here, which is are incrementing or decrementing, whatever. That same value are reflecting here also. Basically, signal what how signal works. Signal actually works by the when data is capturing from any points, and that data are submitted various places. So that is the main purpose of signals, and that process are created by the service class, because
Okay.
we can this service class are basically any service class did not have any UI part. It's have it's uses for only data communication process. So this particular service class are communicate the data one component to another component by their functions or by their object property.
Okay.
But when we are creating the value here, so basically when I create the when we create the object, basically this is the object creation of, right? If we create
Yes.
the new object, so basically always uh, new created object always be different, not be same,
Hmm.
because if we create this object here and we are create the another object here, so that both are object not be same,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
But
Hmm.
basically in this position, and when our value is changed here and same value are monitoring here, so this time this value actually communicated by the signal are not changed, signal property are same, which is are actually connecting both properties in a single way.
Okay.
So basically when our value is upgrading here, same value are quickly updates here also, and that's part is the signal. And here I have so many signal not problem, computation process. Basically thing is, if we want to observe the value properly, and if we are not getting the value uh, this way, sometimes it's maybe deeper or upper, so many process can be available. So if we get this kind of things situation where our value not be up to date properly, so that time we can use the computed functions for signal updates.
Okay.
Basically one first count is a first signal component, and we want to update the value with the another signals. So if we want to use both of signals and we get the value by the both signals, that time we can use the computed function. Okay, basically this was the another signal component, it was the base signal component. Okay,
Okay.
and this signal component is the writable, and this signal component is the visible purpose, it's only uses for visual purpose. And this computed options also uses for conditional thinking. Basically if we are using any kind of shopping cart, like here I have so many products are here, and when I click add to cart options, then we can see in the cart value are changes quickly after uh, adding the um, adding the value in the cart, add to cart process. That time we can see the value updated after adding the value.
Okay.
Okay, that time signals also working. But once we are reload the page, that time our signal will be break and our value will be 0, because it's only work only that time when value when page will not refreshed. Basically thing is, if I change the page, so this page are changes, but basically thing is every pages are connected as a single page application. So basically if you are not click as hard reset option, only that time you can see your data still observing.
Okay.
Okay, but if you are refresh once in your browser, then this value will gone.
Okay.
Also have another method options which is called effect. Effect also another method where we can observe the signal value, signal updations value if is required. Basically, uh, this is some way which is actually managing our data inside the component and outside the component. Basically, it will be very required things when some object detect some extra advanced features if we want to add. Basically, um, zoneless options if we are not using. So basically here one library is add this zonejs. Okay, if we are not using this zonejs library, that time this signal library can be helpful for us, because this zonejs library actually extra additional library which are reflecting our data for our entire applications. But if we are use if we don't use this library in later, that time signal will help us to change the data. Basically, this these things after some versions will be obsolete. So when it obsolete,
Okay.
that time signal will be major priority part in our Angular component, Angular development. So basically, this was the third party library, and this third party library dependency are wanted to remove by the Angular team eventually. So before removing these features, they are adding the signal features, and these signal features are working like this way. And if once it removed, then only options we have to get the data one component to another component, that will be only signal options will be available. But if at this moment we have other options also to get the data one component to another component.
Okay.
Here are some signal options, and how signal options are working. Not signal options, actually this is called state management option, and this state management options also required when we are create a audio player, video player, streaming data. So that time these signals are signal or state management libraries are help us to observe that data in a real time basis.
Okay.
Here I have some observable option. Basically, async data means if we get any URL data and want to store or fetch the data in our application, so that time we can use that data by the fetch function, and once fetch that function by the signal, then we can see that data without recalling to the server. Basically, server response will be minimized if we are using this kind of signal process in our application.
Okay.
Okay. So now, if we want to create a contact form, so basically today I want to also talk about form also. So basically, if we want to create a contact form, so how can manage that contact form in our Angular application. So basically here I just create a simple UI div class. Here you already have container. So now if I use this app card part, so this app card need to be added in our component. So app card this component class name is card, not app card. Just hold on, I got a call. Hello.
Yeah.
Who is this? Hello. Now here is component, and then we can see the card options here. And when I created it, then we can see the app card options in our application. And after that, here I just create a contact form, contact form contact form, and here we can create the contact form. So first we take a UI design part from the getbootstrap.com. Go to the bootstrap website, and then we can take a form controls from here. Just I copy and I paste the code inside this section. Okay, so basic simple contact form I created, and I can use the name, ID will be name, full name, email address, email message then we can create a button for submit, and now this is our simple UI, right?
Okay.
So now if I want to use this data, if I put the data, and after put the data, want to see somewhere in somewhere. So how can use the how can use form in our application? Basically, when we need to get the user data from the user end, so form is very important part, right?
Okay. Okay. Yes.
Okay, so basically, if anyone contact with us, and that time they want to submit their data, and this is the test message whatever I give here, but after submitting the value, this data will be submitted into the server side, and then we get some responses from servers, and thank you contacting for us, or whatever we can send the message, but that is the server part. But basically, how can we send the data from HTML page to Angular to server side? Basically, this is the main way, which is the uh, some some things is different from the normal component of normal HTML. Do you have did you create before any normal HTML form?
Not normal HTML. Windows form I have created.
Okay.
Windows application.
Okay. So basically, it is, and this time I am created a form here. This form actually normal HTML form. If you want to submit your data from the user end to server side, so that time you require this kind of uh, options for normally when you put the data uh, user end to server side. But when we are using the Angular, so that time we need to be use extra things to send the data from the user end to server side. So basically, if we want to put some data through the server side, so before that we required a element which called from element. This from elements is
Okay.
too much important for normal HTML, and once we create the form element, and after this form element we can put our all the data from this form element. And under this form element we can applying the name as form variable. Basically, this name key actually using as a form variable data. Okay, form variable or form parameter, whatever you say. So this name actually identified in the or instantiate our variable object, form variable object. Okay, could you understand?
Yeah. Yes, I understand.
Okay, so basically, once I set this name, and every name, once I submitted, once I created here, and what will be happen? Just I simply in the placeholder uh, put your name. So here I can put my name, and then we can put my email ID, and then we can use the test message test. Okay, but once I test, then you can see all the values are showing inside the address bar. Okay, so this data are showing when we are creating this form options. Basically, this form options is very important to know when you are working for the front end development, with HTML. This is important part.
Okay.
But when I post submit the data, and that data are visible in this URL. So this is the process when we see the data directly in the URL. So this process are showing the data as get method. Basically, here we have some method options after the form attribute. We have three type of options here. One is the dialog, another is the get, another is the post. So basically, this get method are actually normally did this. So if I change any value here, and we can see, so this value are showing in the browser section, which is the comes from the get method. Okay,
Okay.
but if I doing it as post method, then I just remove it here, and now same things I do it here, but this time page was gone after submitting,
Okay.
after clicking the submission. So this is the
Okay.
problem. Okay, if I, and it is the way when we are put the data, when we actually put our data with the submit with the post method option. So after that, that request are sending internally, and that's data not showing in the browser URL. That data will be submitted directly uh, with the HTTP protocol, and that data will be submitted into the server side without seen anywhere. Okay,
Okay.
so if it is required, but after submission our page is gone, that means we are not get any post response from the server side. So basically, if we are not getting any server side response, we are not get any pages in our browser after submitting this process.
Okay.
So how can prevent this? If we want to prevent this problem, because after submission we did not see the blank page, right? We did not want to see the blank page after submission. So
Blank page.
so if we have this kind of problem, so then we need to add some solutions to page will not refresh after submissions. How can do that? That time actually here we create a template. Basically here I create a template. So basically when I create a template, so that time we require a template driven form. And if we require template driven form, so that time we require to import a forms module options for our application. Okay,
Okay.
so basically thing is, this form module uh, part I need to be import here in this import section, and then we can see the import uh, process. And when I use this import options, uh, when we use this form module as importing in our component, and after that we need to add a another thing which called ng form. So this ng form actually is required uh, for this particular section, and this time this post method does not require anymore here. So now here I just simply use ng form, not ng form, actually I just use the form, and this has a sign symboling for form variable object, and this ng form actually are instantiate whole form properties. Okay,
Okay.
so how can observe the value? If we want to observe this value, so of course we required here a on submit method. Actually we need a method where we can get the value from here. So if I want to see the value, so basically form form objects, and that form object come from ng form property. Okay, so that ng form property will be visible in this section. Now we can see the form value property object into the console section. So now here we go to here extra addition options, ng submit. Basically when press the submit button, so after submitting, this submit functions are acting, and there I required a form property object, a form object. So this form object actually comes from this object reference. Okay, this is the object reference which is putting here. Okay,
Okay.
so this is the form binding options, and once I put the value, and after that I open the terminal inspect element in our browser, and there I just put the value and test message. Then we can see the console. We can see some activities inside the console. Okay, and this data comes from the ng from object. Okay, so basically we can see here our ng form data is activated, and when it ng form data is activated, and after that we can if we want to see the data, so here is value options, and in this value options we are not seeing any property value. Just hold on. No, we cannot get the data directly at this moment. Why not? Basically we are put the value right, but this time this value are not connected through this particular name object. So if we want to connect the property with the name object, so here we need to add ng model options inside the every input types. This ng model are actually mention this particular input property is a value property which can be visible in our console mode. Basically from this element we can retrieve the values, and we can, if we want to retrieve the values, so that values are actually comes from this particular directives or attribute which is provided by
Okay.
Angular team. Now similar thing I try and just test, and then I just submit it here, and after that we check the value. now we can see which value we are submitted. Our submitted value are visible here now. Understood?
Okay. Understood.
So basically, when we need to observe the value, so basically this is the process where we are applying the from um, data from data and after that we using the submit functions, and these submit functions are created here inside the ts file, and after that in the HTML sections are binded with the ng model attribute, and these
Okay.
everything's are comes with this single forms module. Okay, so this
Okay.
single form module, when you are importing in your component, every kind of features, every type of these features are actually connecting with your component directly. Okay,
Okay.
so basically this time I just wanted to see values only. So this time we can see only value options, and now hello. So now we can see all the data as JSON format. If we get this data as JSON format, then after then we can apply to send the data through HTTP client, right?
Yeah.
So then we can use the HTTP, and then we can create the HTTP client object, and then we can use that value as HTTP, and then we can post that value to the server like this. And once server uh, once our data submitted into the server, then we can get the response from the server side. Okay, and that message can be visible in our API endpoints to application. So now if we centered the value, so this is the our value, and when we get response, so that time after that we can get the response from the server side with the ID. Okay, so that means
Okay.
our form data can working properly as you as we required. Okay,
Okay.
and the same things we can do with reactive form also, but reactive forms part some things is different from the template driven form. Basically here I have two type of form options are is available. One is the reactive form, another is the template driven form. Template driven form quite easy, but reactive form uh, also can use if you uh, we can also work with this particular thing, but I think tomorrow next in the next class we will be discuss about it.
Sure.
Okay, so basically
Okay.
uh, this time you just implementing this particular form method option, and also you check about the signal process. Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
so can we end this session today?
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.